Hi, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of Table 21. I'm Christopher Wells, your host. Super excited today. It took a long time coming to get this one rolling because my guest today is quite the busy woman. And I'm really excited because I've gotten a lot of dudes on this podcast, and I've invited a ton of interesting and powerful women, but they are all too busy doing what they're supposed to be doing instead of coming on a podcast. My guest today probably doesn't have time, but she agreed months ago to come and do this with me, so I'm very excited now. Parisa Tootazehi, and she'll correct me if I say it wrong, is the director of marketing and growth, and she'll tell us precisely at business development, I think, at ResQ.
Yeah.
ResQ is a repair and maintenance management platform. I love what they do. I see a ton of collaborations potentially in the future for Piecemeal and ResQ. So when we had a first call together to talk, potential partnerships, I was like, I want to have you on the podcast. And she's like, I love the podcast. So without any further ado, hi, Parisa. How are you today?
Hey, Chris. Glad to be here. I'm doing
very
great.
happy to have you. Thanks for taking time in your very, very busy schedule to come and join us. I must tell our audience that all of the emails that you and I have exchanged to coordinate this happen after midnight. So that gives you an idea. I am the CEO of a startup founder, and I work crazy hours. But I must tell you, for you to manage two departments in a growing startup, and you'll tell us all about ResQ in a bit, and the crazy growth that you guys are seeing, and that's amazing. I can only imagine what your life is like, and excited to see both our companies as they keep growing. But before we do that, I always like to discover a bit more about my guests. So I would like to play a little this or that with you, so we get to know a little bit more about you, if you don't mind playing with me. So I'm going to throw a couple of options to you, and I want to know if you're more this or you're more that. So are you more an early riser or a night owl?
I'm biologically designed to be a night owl, but it's been 10 years. I can't sleep beyond 6 a.m. So, yeah.
That's a rough one. But I must say, at the speed at which you answer emails at 12:30 at night, I can see that, like the old bartender in me, you are a night owl as well.
Yeah.
Are you more, I don't know if you like to work out, are you more jogging or going to the gym?
Neither. I have friends who work out, so I live through them. But I used to run in the past. Yeah. But Muay Thai is as far as I would go. It's quite intense. But with the pandemic,
yeah. And the cool thing with Muay Thai is if people are not nice, you can kick their butt. So
yeah.
Are you more burger or tacos?
I like both, but I would say tacos more because you get more variety.
Yes, very popular. Like, I mean, obviously we're both based in Canada, so
yeah.
I mean, it's growing here, but if you go anywhere, in the US or even south in the US, like they're everywhere, the tacos, right?
Everywhere, yeah.
Are you more Netflix or YouTube?
YouTube.
YouTube.
This rabbit hole I can't
get rabbit hole city. Yeah? It's like, I was going to go to bed at 11 or 12, and now it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in the 43rd video that I'm digging in.
Exactly.
Any specific topics? Are you more like business stuff, or are you more just kind of relaxing and food? What do you dig in?
I start with the intention of listening to a TED Talk, and then I end up watching random 90s music videos, and yeah.
Oh yeah, Debbie Gibson. I haven't seen that in a while, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you more chips or ice cream?
Chips. Any time of day.
Yeah. Any special flavor?
Miss Vicky's the classic flavor. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's some crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You more beach or mountain?
I physically like to go to the beach more, but mountains are my happy place to look at because of Bob Ross. Growing up, he was always playing in the background, so.
We don't make mistakes. We only have happy accidents.
Exactly. Love it. That was good. That was really good.
Yeah, I love it. Love Bob Ross. My girlfriend thinks I'm a little weird. I've stopped for a while. It's the only thing I could fall asleep to. The only thing that would mellow my brain is watch him paint for a bit and then just listen to him and phase out. Love the mountains there. Are you more tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee?
Lots
of coffee, right?
Lots, yeah.
Coffee fuels startups, I'm sure.
Oh, 100%. It's coffee and snacks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for playing a little this or that, so we get to learn a bit more about you. Um, you I come from the straight restaurant background. You come from a bit of a different background, but now you're on to your second company that works with restaurants in the tech world. So I was curious to know, um, how did you wind up working in tech for restaurants? Is that a field that you were interested in, or is that something that happened and then you liked it, so you moved on into that? Like, what brought you to our world, pretty much?
It's a beautiful world, the restaurant tech world. It was more of it happened through an introduction, but the reason I keep now going back to restaurant tech, it's because it just felt like such a natural fit. Don't cringe. Everybody says they're a foodie, but I've always been a foodie. I explored different cities whenever I traveled through their food and restaurants. And, I love being in the tech sector, and it was just a natural organic fit. And yeah, that's how I ended up being in restaurant technology. I started my restaurant tech career at Touch Bistro. You guys know them. So, one of the most popular North American POS companies. And at the time when I joined Touch Bistro, they were a scale up. It was a well-oiled machine, and it was a wonderful experience to scale the team, scale the results. But it was fine-tuning a well-built machine already. And because I love challenges, and I'm crazy, I was like, I need more. So, and then I got introduced to KJ, the CEO at ResQ, and I realized it had all the elements of what I was looking for to push myself to, see where my limits were. Because, as you know, with a startup, your resources are little to non-existent. There's very little to, no brand recognition. But there was enough value and in the product and in the offering, and it was very apparent to see that the product and the service pretty much solved a real world problem. So it was not a nice to have; it was something that restaurants needed. So that really got my interest, and I think I will continue being in the restaurant tech scene for the next little while.
That's really cool. So there's a bit of an entrepreneur in you to go from this scale up is, I love this company, I like it, but you know what? Let me throw myself into the fire pit here and go see some action, right?
Absolutely, it's the best way to learn, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
What is ResQ? If you want to share a bit, I've got more questions about what you've learned there and all that, but I'm curious to know what's ResQ. What does it do?
So ResQ is a restaurant repair and maintenance platform. And in a nutshell, what we do is we take the restaurant's repair and problem issues and we own it. We make it our own so that restaurant owners and their staff can actually focus on making more money, on the guest experience. And you have the website right there. So we don't just give you the technology and the services. Actually, we give the tech and the services, but beyond that, you also get the data behind all your repair and maintenance. So it's everything you needed for repair and maintenance in one clean package. The analogy I like to use, it's think of it in terms of Uber, but we're better than Uber in some ways, and I'll tell you why. It's not vanity. So what Uber will do, they'll match the rider with the closest driver. And think of us in that regard. We do that too. Your fridge breaks down. You just open up the app on your phone and you take a photo of the QR code that we would have added on, stuck onto your fridge. Yeah. And then when you take a photo of the QR code, all your equipment history, whether it's under warranty or not, that's all going to get pre-populated. So let's say, with the high turnover in restaurants, you get a new GM who's not sure if this is under warranty or not. So you don't have to worry about those things, and you just submit it and we take care of the rest. Now, when I say, we're better than Uber, is we don't just send you whoever is closest. We take a look at your restaurant profile and your preferences, and we keep that in mind before dispatching someone to you. So let's say you're like, I'm okay paying premium, but I need someone now. Yep. So we'll make sure that's taken care of, and we dispatch someone who can be there, do quality work and be there right away. Other restaurants are more cost sensitive. They would ask, you know what, I'm okay waiting 24 hours, but I want the most competitive rates on this particular job. So we take all of those things into consideration as well.
It is, when I heard about you guys, I was like, this is such a great idea because it's such a pain point. There's many companies that we at Piecemeal we talk with, collaboration wise. There's some on the hiring side, which is a big pain point right now. But when I heard about maintenance, most restaurants don't even do the proper maintenance, repairs. Sometimes, and I was going to say they open, the yellow pages, which is a little outdated, but they'll grab their phone and search for the first one. Is he good? Is he not good? But it is such a brilliant thing. The same way that I thought it was brilliant that I can order a car on my phone, have my credit card in there, not have every time I try to pay a taxi with a card, I get attitude, or they go in the trunk and they blow the dust off of it to get the payment. Is that you help with all of that? Like you said, there's QR codes that you'll put on the equipment. You'll help me depending on whether I want it done now or later. I think it's such a pain point. I want to be, and that's a similar, promise value that we want to bring with Piecemeal. Like we want to automate a lot of the back office stuff that you do with inventory and all that. But as an operator, what I like is being with my guests in the dining room. What I like is training my team, is coming up with new menus, it's doing stuff, promotions that are going to bring people in and impress my guests. I don't want to deal with a fryer. I don't want to deal with a fridge, but I have to. Well, now maybe I don't have to. I can offset that to experts. Right, as you guys are building the network, I'm sure competitive pricing. I don't have to touch it. I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing. And not surprising, you guys are growing really fast. It just raised $7-8 million round recently to accelerate your growth. Your team is growing fast. It's very exciting stuff for you. You get to work. When you work at Touch Bistro, you work with a lot of restaurant operators. You do the same now that you're with ResQ. You've worked in other fields before in marketing and in other areas, but I'm curious to know. Restaurant people are known to be a different breed, right? There's certain areas, certain industries where it takes a different kind of breed of people to work and I think food service is definitely one of those. What do you appreciate about food service operators, about restaurant owners? What does make them different from people in other industries? What makes you want to keep working with restaurants?
Yeah. I'll talk about the generic stuff and then I'll get to the specific. I think when you think about successful people who are like, they kill it in their craft, regardless of industry, they're hardworking, they're resilient as hell, a lot of grit and unwavering passion. And all of those are, consistent traits you see with independent restaurant owners or, franchise groups. It's still a family-run business, even if they're, franchising a McDonald's, for example. But what stands out to me, and time and time again, I'm just always in awe, is the amount of empathy that folks in the restaurant industry have. I think being in the hospitality sector, it's so important to be able to relate and put yourself in the position of your guests. And that's how you're able to create those amazing experiences, create those unforgettable experiences. And being in the hospitality industry, you're so used to putting others' needs before yours. I think that stands out the most to me. The resilience, grit, that's in the restaurant industry as well. And you see it in other sectors, but that ample empathy that people have, it just shows through their work.
I think it's amazing you notice that, because I think the world needs more empathy.
Yeah.
And I think EQ, emotional quotient, emotional intelligence is an underrated skill. A lot of people talk about being smart, but I think the ability to relate to others, to do that. And I think it's great because these operators, these restaurant owners, are so used to doing that, but now you are in a position to do that for them, right? Using tech and using what you guys are doing, is that to say, what, let us service you and take care of this part that is really no fun and it's value added in a sense that you need your equipment, but short term having to deal with that doesn't bring you any value as an operator. It doesn't bring in sales, doesn't 100%. Rise your average check, but you do need that equipment to operate. So I think it's so much fun, and that's why I think I dig so much what you guys are doing. Is there's a lot of similar values to what we're doing. Is that let us handle part of the crappy part of the job, so you can focus on the good part. And there's so much, that chain of empathy keeps going. And
100%. I love how you position it. It's exactly that. It's creating that experience, right? Already when you think about it, thinking about repair and maintenance, no one's like, yay, repair and maintenance, right? It's already a shitty experience to begin with, right? And we've taken a bold stance to want to change that. So and the only way we can do that is to continuously deliver that, exceptional experience for you. Go above and beyond. That's why you always have a team of 24/7 support available. They're an extension of your operations team, because we understand it's not just technology that's going to help you, streamline your operations. You also need, support. You need services. You need a success team behind you who are, rooting for you, taking all of that off your plate. So the experience is really important for us. And I always like being in marketing and business development. I always have these, I guess, checkpoints for me to know if we've hit those milestones beyond numbers. And one of them is, do your customers use you as a verb if it's a cool enough name? And so I heard one of our customers, and very early customers, he said his team pretty much uses us as their operational vocabulary. So something breaks down, they're like, rescue it.
Rescue it.
Rescue it.
Like Google it, but now rescue it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Just rescue it. So that was such a proud moment to know that, you know what? Great. We've already changed the mindset around repair and maintenance.
Yeah.
So it goes back to that empathy, because we know it's already a horrible experience to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Let us take that off your plate.
It's funny you mentioned that, how that hit you, because I had a conversation with Felix, our customer success manager, last Friday. We are working with one of the largest companies in Canada, and one of their franchisees group is pushing them hard. They're like, okay, you got piecemeal, but we want to roll it out. And in internal emails, they referred to us as PM instead of piecemeal. And I'm like, now we have a nickname where they're like, as we're doing this with PM and PM and PM, and we never called it that even in house, right? But they amongst themselves, this VP to this director of operations, are referring to us as PM, and I'm like, oh my God, we've gone to another level now where I guess I don't know if it'll ever be piecemealed, like it can be rescued, but get it rescued. I think that's such a fantastic thing, because it means like they appropriated it to themselves. And one thing in what you're doing that I love too is, just to make a parallel, you made a parallel with Uber before, is the fact that you guys bring a certain level of confidence, of quality, right? In a sense that there's, I'm guessing, ratings or reviews and stuff like that. So if people want to partner with you, you bring the suppliers, or you bring the people that do the repair for you a ton of business. Well, they need to perform at a certain level. So there's as if I work with you, I know you're not going to send me somebody that I mean, obviously with Uber, maybe some people have had bad experiences. For my part, for every time I've used Uber or Lyft, I've never really had, I've never caught a bad driver. Maybe I'm just lucky, but I'm guessing that, ratings and stuff like that, obviously give you a certain level of confidence of the service you'll get on the other side. So.
Oh, absolutely. That level, the quality is one of the main value props or value adds, because the last thing you want is to have a random person show up in your kitchen and not be helpful. So our restaurants rate every job after it's completed. So they will either give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, and tell us exactly what went wrong or what they loved about it. And if things don't go right, or if it's not completed as expected, then we follow up. So you don't have to spend your time following up. We handle disputes. We do all of that. And when it comes to service providers, so we are a marketplace. Our customers are restaurants, but our customers are also service providers. And we're able to promise them reliable, repeatable, meaningful work, and to say, do away with the gig economy. You don't need to wait around to see if you can get that paycheck today or not, right? But, the caveat for staying on the platform is that, you need to consistently deliver a great experience. And so service providers, they've joined our platform, they've grown their teams. We also give them tools for them to get full visibility into, how their business is running. Is there one particular tech, for example, who constantly gets the thumbs down? Maybe it's a training opportunity, right? And someone who's constantly delivering great experiences, see how you can double down on that. So, being a marketplace company, we need to keep both sides in mind, and the success and the experiences of both sides, because they're so interrelated.
For sure. I'm curious to pick your brain, because restaurants, they drive sales, they want revenue. They also do marketing and loyalty and all kinds of things. Sometimes in restaurants it'll be the same person that does that. If it's a bigger chain or group, obviously it'll be two departments. If you look at most startups in the world, marketing and sales or business, development is usually two opposite departments, right? And they don't necessarily see things the same way. So I find it very interesting that you run both departments with ResQ, and how do you juggle that? And does it actually help you to? I'm guessing it probably helps communication for sure. Because a lot of times, sales is one way they're pushing this, and marketing does nothing. It's just, we're the only ones driving sales, and the marketing says if we weren't here, you wouldn't get any sales, right? So there's a bit of competing. How do you handle that? And I'm sure there's parallels that could be interesting for restaurant owners.
Oh yeah, I've been in organizations where it was two adversaries, marketing and sales, and I've been part of organizations where it was very clear that the success of one team meant the success of another, and so like it's uncommon to see the business development team be part of marketing, but it's becoming more apparent now because marketing, you need to become part of the revenue engine, right? To be able to keep growing and, justify the fact that, you're here and adding value. So being part of the revenue engine, you just cannot succeed if you're not on the front lines. From a marketing perspective, if you're not talking to prospects, talking to customers, how can you truly say that you understand their pain points? How can you truly say that you understand what is it that makes them tick? So, and there's different ways to get to prospects. And here at ResQ, like 100% of our pipeline is through our business development team because we're still, an unknown brand. So, we need to get our foot in the door, and being under the same umbrella, we're able to do that effectively because we are supported, BDRs are supported by the marketing team with messaging material they need. And we prioritize, that experience, even the first very hello, here's who we are. We want to make sure that experience is also great. So we need to marketing and marketing specialists ensure that the BDRs are empowered to do that. So it works really well. And here, sales and marketing is under one larger revenue umbrella, which makes a lot of sense. And being such a small company, we all help each other out. And it's the kind of culture we want to cultivate and make sure that this sustains.
For sure. You say small company, but you guys are growing fast. Like it's impressive how it's not that small anymore.
Not that small. Yeah.
You're definitely what's called a high growth company. You guys face similar issues to restaurants when it comes to hiring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Restaurants are struggling quite a bit right now. You guys are growing, and you need more people to join the team, so you don't have to answer emails at 12:30 at night. Any tips that you've done in the last few months? I know it's not the same business and it's not the same type of positions, but any tips for operators watching us as far as how you can, things, maybe 2-3 tips they can do to help with either attracting or keeping or growing their teams?
Yeah. Okay, how much time we got? Because I could talk about this forever. I'll try and be concise. I think regardless of industry, it becomes impossible to hire and retain talent that's going to be a great fit for your company and the future of your company if they don't see their growth journey with you, if they can't vividly see what part do they play in the bigger picture, right? And that's regardless of any industry. I would say, like the restaurant industry, it's known for, as you know this better than I do, 9 out of 10 restaurant managers started at entry-level jobs, right? What are the stats? I think it's 8 out of 10 restaurant owners started at an entry-level job. So I think that growth story becomes the common theme, whether it's a high-growth tech company or a high-growing restaurant business. So here's what I've done in the past 5 years, hiring for high-growth companies and hiring for really in-demand roles. And we were able to hire and retain them. So I'll share my humble 2 cents. Let me know if this you can relate to this. So I would always zoom out and try and cover a few things. First, talk about where you are today. Show them the lay of the land, right? You want them to be able to you have a point of reference. So where are you today? How did you get here? That's usually the very inspiring story, the genesis of this company, how you got here, but most importantly, where you're going. What does the road ahead look like? And, you're most probably likely to hire millennials or Gen Z, right? So they need to be able to see themselves and the role they play in the growth story of the company, so that, this way they see the bigger picture, they see the impact they have, and it fulfills the part where they feel like they want to add value. I'll give you an example, like an entry level role. A lot of times people overlook those roles and they're like, listen, this is just, here's your job description, do it, right? But that doesn't work, right? Because I think I'll take a few steps back there as well. Sorry, losing my train of thought. There's some commotion outside the room here. Yeah, so actually, let's continue with the example. So with the example where it's an entry-level role, and what I do is that doesn't matter what position I'm hiring for, I make sure I look for the why behind what drives those people. And not the entire why doesn't need to match the company's goals, but you see elements of that why and you capitalize on that and see if there's alignment with your company goals or not. For example, you get someone who's fresh out of school and they're hungry to learn. What they're looking for is high growth. So they want to grow and they want to get experience. They want to be able to contribute and make an impact. And, it's an entry-level role. So you're like, great that you're here. Here's what success looks like in your role. Here's how it's proven to be successful for us to get to those numbers or, make that success come true. But this is true as of now. What 2 months from now it's going to look like, we may never know. I mean, the pandemic has taught us many things. And one of them is that, the ability to be nimble and to be flexible and how important that is. So let's say when that's the why and that's the driver for that entry-level role, let's say down the line, something happens and you need to change strategy, change tactics. Asking this person to, change what they're doing is not going to rattle their world. It's not going to be the end of the world for them. They're not going to take it that personally anymore. It's because you can then position it in terms of, this is what the business needs. How do you think we need to change? And this will help you grow with the company as well and learn in the meantime while you still achieve your business goals. So I rambled on there for a bit, but I think, trying to understand the whys and trying to match that with your goals is really important, and not underestimating the need for being part of the bigger story. I know like the current hiring challenges, it's not easy. It's always been a challenge to compete for top talent. But I think at the same time, with the recent changes, what it's forced different industries to do is to up our collective game and pretty much, improve our standards and, anywhere beginning from giving people meaningful salaries in any sector they're in to so many other improvements. So, it's not always, the reason I go back to the why, because it's not, money is important, but it's not always the sole driving factor for people. So I think that's usually overlooked. I don't know if I made sense there.
Totally. No, I totally agree. I mean, people need to pay bills, but a salary is not what's going to get you up in the morning. And you made so much sense. I think people want to know where they're headed and what they can be, what they can become, right? Finished is the day. I mean, there's still people, but and not to put down any type of work, but the classic way of, most people that used to work and, clock in the morning, clock out, do that for 40 years, get a watch and go retire, in Florida. Most people don't want that. Some people still want that type of life, but a lot of people, they want to know, they want to have a career path. They want to know where they're going, what they're doing. So especially, like you said, it is entry-level jobs, but that doesn't mean that people don't want to know what they can learn, how they can grow in that position. So one thing that really hit me in what you were saying is when you said, tell the story and basically sell. A lot of people think when they're doing an interview with somebody, it's, justify yourself to me. But it's also, how are you selling your business and why you should come and work with me? And now people are realizing it because we're all competing, for employees. But I've always seen it that way. Like and that means selling your culture, selling your values, what we're about. this is what we do for our guests. This is the atmosphere. This is the concept. This is the kind of happiness we want to sell people. We would love you to be part of this. That makes it that much more enticing. And one thing that struck me in that is, and in doing that, when you're selling the culture, the values, and all that, is that I always said hire on attitude before you hire based on skills, especially for in restaurant work, right? I can teach you anything that we can do in a restaurant. Maybe not at the chef level. Maybe there's certain things in the kitchen that need some training, but most of the entry level jobs in a restaurant, I can teach you the work, but I can't re-educate or reteach you emotional intelligence and your attitude. But if you have the right attitude, you believe in our values, then it's going to be easy for you to be flexible also at whatever the job calls for, and you'll be open to learning and doing all kinds of things, right? The classic, this is not my job. Well, if you at the beginning talk culture, values, and hire on attitude, then that makes a bunch of sense for me, whether that's in a tech company or a restaurant, for sure.
I agree. And, the benefit of uncovering that early on is that also becomes your guidepost or theme for retention strategies.
Yeah.
If you know someone's driven by growth, then you make sure there's ongoing training, ongoing feedback. Then, if there's, an opportunity for someone to raise their hand, it's going to be this person whose whys align and whose growth, the hunger for growth matches the pace of the business as well.
For sure. That's why you open positions, especially in a restaurant, but you open positions internally. I want to know that if I'm opening a prep position, a lot of times you hire somebody from the outside and your dishwasher person is like, man, I would have loved to get a chance to do that, but nobody gave me the chance. Now, if you say, does anybody in here want to do this? And then the dish person says, yeah. If they're not ready, then at least you can sit down with them and have a conversation and say, listen, I love to see that you want to do that. Right now in your current position, here's what I would like to see for you to be able to move to that step. And if I see that over the next 3 to 6 months, I will make sure that we get there. Now, there is a growth path. There is something to look forward. Now, don't forget in 3 to 6 months, if you forget that person, they'll probably leave. But if you're there and you're working and you really have a plan for them, and the tide rises all ships, right? So and we're only as strong as our weakest link. So if we can help people to go there, then that makes so much sense. So I think you're making some amazing points there. And it's don't underestimate the power of having these conversations, of giving people a clear plan on things that they need to work on, and maybe along the way making sure that, hey, you nudge them and you have a conversation. Hey, great job on that. I appreciate how you did that. Or if there's times for correction discussions, maybe coaching, like you said before. There's a line that always stuck with me, and it's pertinent even in what I'm doing today. But it says, you'll never get a promotion until you're overqualified for your current position.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So when people say, oh, well, I want to be a server. Okay, well, we still need to tell you what to do as a busboy. So maybe when you're king. You're king on this department, maybe we can look at doing something else. But when I still need to tell you what to do, I want to see proactiveness. I want to make sure I don't have to tell you to do this or that. Then that shows me you're ready for the next level. That's definitely something that applies to many things that we do in life. So thanks for sharing that amazing stuff there.
Oh, anytime. One thing I wanted to add is, I forgot to mention earlier, is when you do dig that deeper and you hire for the attitude, like you said, these are the folks who will stick with you through thick and thin, because the going will get tough, right? And your people are your biggest investment. So I've seen that through and through. The ones who stick around and who still show up to the battleground, no matter how bruised they are, right? Are the folks whose the overarching goals align with where you're going with the company.
Yep. And you're going there with everybody, right? So make sure that you have a plan for everybody and that you know what their plan is and what they want, right? Even with our guests and restaurants, but with our team, there's a line that always says, treat them how you'd like to be treated. And I always said, nah, that's not a bad one, but I like to take it a level deeper. It's treat them how they'd like to be treated. And that's where EQ and empathy comes in. What works for me doesn't necessarily work for the other person, right? Most people work with a tap on the back. Some people work better with a swift kick in the butt. And my personal statistic is about 80-85, like the tap on the back, and there's a 15-20% that need a swift kick in the rear to get them going and need a fire lit under their butt. So, but it's treat them how they want to be treated. What works for you doesn't necessarily work for them. And as humans, we tend to want to mirror or duplicate what we like, what we want. But when we understand what makes other people tick, and on that topic, just to go sideline, there's a bunch of books on personalities, Personality Plus, I forget a bunch of others, where they'll kind of generalize 4 types of personalities. Really worth it to understand your guests better and understand your employees better and what makes them tick. Some people are detail oriented. I'm more vision oriented. If I tell you about vision, be like, yeah, but what are the details, right? So there's some really general lines. It's worth, if it's not something you've looked into, definitely worth taking a look into. It's going to help you HR wise and all that. Just for people out there listening to our conversation here, really some great insights in there. Thank you so much for sharing that. You've grown a lot, obviously, in your career in the last 10, 12, 15. I don't know how long you've been.
Longer than you can imagine.
Yeah, couldn't be that long, because otherwise we'll be going back to the school years. But what would you tell Parisa from 10 years ago, when your career got going, or maybe a bit before that? But are there any one or a few tips you would share with yourself?
The ones that I find still I have to remind myself is, be bolder and don't be afraid to take up space. Do anyway, but also you've worked hard and you've earned it. I think there's so many layers to why people don't take up the space. They've worked just as hard, if not more. And so I'm always fascinated when I see that in others. And, I pick up on the different layers, and it could be for so many different reasons. It's not just gender, race, it could be so many different things. And I found myself subconsciously on a mission to see that in my team and other team members, and try and nudge them to take that space, take up that room. Because then, they'll be able to just flourish and really reach their potential. So I would say, be bolder.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do more.
No,
but I mean, be bolder. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and to try to shake things up, and to take the risks. And in your case, right, you were in a comfortable position a couple of years ago. You're like, yeah, let me go do that startup thing and see how crazy that can get. But is there one trait, I ask you about specific things that that you like about restaurant people, but is there one thing you've noticed? Obviously you've seen thousands of restaurants over the last couple of years. Is there a trait that you've noticed in successful restaurant owners? The one that there's people you talk to, and obviously it's sometimes a personality thing, but everything's always hard, everything's always painful, and there's others that they work in the same industry, they have the same issues, and a lot of time it's about perspective and outlook. But there's some of them that nothing seems to bother them, or they're opening up more locations, they're successful, right? Even if it's just one location, but they're doing really well. And usually the same people that sales have been I was talking to somebody last week, yeah, we're 30% higher than we were pre-pandemic, and we just reopened with half our capacity. I'm like, okay, you're gonna have to tell me. But what are they, some traits that you've noticed in successful restaurant operators that keep coming back, that you're like, okay, there's definitely these things are definitely things that we notice in most of the happy, successful ones?
Happy, successful ones. I would say I've worked with customers where, they own 200 location businesses to one with one corner shop, tiny little establishment. Yeah. And the common trait I would say right off the top of my head would be, they have a freakish ability not to get flustered very easily. And, it could be part personality, but part business experience and life experience, to know that not everything is going to be the end of the world. And those are the ones who know how to be effective shock absorbers for their team as well. Yeah. Because, I've seen their team going to them, things are horrible, it's a catastrophe. And they're like, okay. They listen, they validate. They're like, yes, it is. I hear you. Now let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the facts. What's really happening? And I'm in constant awe of how they're able to do that. And I found that's a common thread between them.
I like the freakish part.
Come on, imagine someone coming to you screaming, right?
Yeah. And yeah, and I think you're right. It's a combination of personality and business experience in a sense that you've seen it all, and there's not much to phase you and to throw you out there. After my in my first job, I was 14 years old the first time I worked in a restaurant, and my boss, that Nick, told me, Chris, the first 15 years are hard in the restaurant business, and I was like, I'll never be in this business for 15 years. It's been 30 this year, and I must say the first 15 are the hardest. After that, it gets a little more you're in comfortable or yeah, I've seen this before. I know how to handle this for sure.
Can I ask you that question as well? Like, what do you find to be that defining characteristic, or one of them?
I think you called it before when I asked you, what do you appreciate about restaurant people, and it combines a lot of that stuff. But resiliency is, I think what the traits you mentioned before: empathy, resiliency, and flexibility would be probably the other one that I'd add. But that kind of goes into all of that. Restaurant owners, restaurant operators, restaurant employees have the ability to juggle 20 things in their heads, right? Even as a server, as a kitchen, think about it. In the kitchen, you have 20 chits in front of you. I've got 6 medium wells all day. I've got 4 carbonara. I got this. Like, are we ready to go on the salads? Like, you look at any kitchen and you look at that dance. Same thing in the dining room or behind the bar. There's 4 bartenders behind the bar. Nobody knocks each other. I've done that where there was 2 of us that were over 200 pounds. The managers has to think about the repairs, but if he's smart, he's dealing with ResQ and he doesn't have to think about that. But the hires that he has to do, the order that he needs to put in before 10 o'clock. There's a leak in the bathroom. There's people at the door. There's a guest that's not happy with table 10, and somebody just called in sick, and somebody's about to trip because there's what I mean. Like, there's so many things. I think if you've worked in the restaurant business for any length of time, you can do anything in life after that, because those are skills that there's the classic, and I'm gonna mess it up, but the classic thing of the tree, like the oak tree that kind of breaks in the tornado, but then there's the smaller tree that's kind of flexible and survives a tornado because he's flexible. I think being flexible, having empathy, thinking on your feet, are all traits that resiliency and all that. Because is there a more resilient industry than the restaurant industry, coming out of what we've just been through for the last year? I know tourism and hotels and all, everybody's in our kind of related industries have been hurt, but none like the restaurant industry that was shut down in most places for the better part of a year, where they're businesses that have low margins, but the people are still there. They're still working hard. If you're watching this and you're not in the industry, be nice when you go out. Be patient right now. I know it's not easy everywhere we go. Even myself, I go out sometimes and I've had some, underwhelming experiences recently. But I let's keep in mind that everybody's working hard. But I think it's such a resilient industry, and I love the people that are in it, and I'm so passionate about the people that are in it. So don't get me started. I'm supposed to talk about you, but
I love that. Yeah. The resilience, I think also how the industry has bounced back, that's another testament to resilience. You could easily give up, but you're like, no, I'm going to put myself through this whole thing again, right?
It's so easy to see the Starbucks or the McDonald's. I'm just naming like the biggest brands, that come to mind, for them to pivot, and they're already there. They're already doing online or, online ordering and apps and all that. Easy for them early in the pandemic to double down on that stuff, right? And to maybe add ways of ordering through third parties or whatever it is. But the amount of independent small restaurants that within 2 weeks were doing takeout, online delivery, this, that had to adapt to tech that they'd never seen and throw that on their website and find ways to drive sales or do boxes where they were doing pre-planned meals. I was so impressed by the again, resiliency and adaptability of restaurant owners, where I was talking to people like, what, I'm doing, half or 3/4 of my old sales doing, takeout boxes. And then, okay, now it's gone down because we can't do that, or some restaurants have reopened. But like that, the ability to turn around and not to be flexible and to be strong and to bounce back, like you said. It's and a lot of them now we're going back to full service in the dining room, but we kept part of that menu, that takeout that we do, and we do 50 boxes a week that go out, and that pays the rent, and it forced them to be so creative and again so open to change, and I mean forced change, but that they still, I've seen so many people I thought maybe weren't going to make it, and they survived, and now they're striving. So
Yes,
I think our industry is set to have, and then it's going to take another year to get back to some normalcy, but I think the next 10 years in our industry is going to be absolutely outstanding, to be honest, because of the people in it. So
I agree.
yeah. I don't, like you said before, don't get me started on the HR stuff. Don't get me started on the people in our business, because that could go on forever, that love fest for sure. But thanks for sharing that. There are some amazing people definitely in our industry. I'm sure you've met some amazing people throughout your career. In your personal life, in work, and anywhere, who are 3 people that have had the most influence on who you are today?
Professional, in life in general, right?
Yeah.
I would say my parents, for sure,
Yeah.
first and foremost, because they taught me how to be humble and to be grounded. And it's been what's got me through so many different positions, industries, and different phases of life. In my professional, but also this also trickled into my personal life. It's 2 mentors that I've had. The first one, I actually reached out to her as a mentor, and she was that spark for me to be bolder. And I was trying to solve a problem that was here. I could only see 2 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And the way she talked to me, the way she helped me rethink challenges, she was 10 steps ahead. And she's like, don't waste your time with the 2 steps ahead of you. Who's got time for that? And to this day, I've never met her in person, but years of mentorship. Another person is actually our CMO at Touch Bistro, who hired me. And he not only helped me professionally, but also in life, just by who he is. And so I think those are, I know parents are 2 people, but I would say the 4 people who influenced me the most.
Very cool. We're so molded by our parents and the people close to us, and that's crazy. And the mentor thing, I love that too. Even somebody you've never met that had such, in person, it's such an impact on you. My dad always said, experience is like a toothbrush. Nobody wants to use it after you, but you can save so much time if you take from other people's experiences. You're humble enough to listen and to try to see things a different way. But a lot of times that's what they bring, right? Is that perspective, right? Even I did consulting for 10 years, and a lot of times all I did is people were so close to their problem, I just grabbed their heads and pulled it back, and then oh, look at the whole view, and did you see this? Oh, that was just that. Oh, yeah, that's easy, right? Exactly. So helping us have perspective sometimes is so powerful, for sure.
Absolutely.
What's your biggest failure, or what you feel is your biggest failure in your career, and what did you learn from it mostly? Is always the most important part, for sure.
I have so many failures.
Good, that means you're going somewhere, so that's a positive thing.
Yeah, so I find oftentimes I talk about what not to do, because I went ahead and did those and found that it didn't work. The lessons I learned, the biggest one was, it involved a marketing spend of $1 million at the enterprise company I was at. It yielded results. It was not like that, it just went to waste, but it could have yielded more results. And I walked away from that experience with so many different lessons. The biggest one being, just proving it to myself that I will not let that define me, because I felt so bad where I was like, I'm just going to go, and, this is the end of my marketing career. But, I was like, I don't want this to be the defining story for me. So I stayed on, and, and I tried to trace back, where was it that I could have done better? And so I find I'm reusing a lot of the lessons from that one particular experience. Biggest one is, don't assume. Even if something's communicated right now, 3 months down the line, even at an enterprise company, things can change. So, to be in constant communication with sales, like you were saying earlier, right? Try and understand what's changing in their world. What they asked you that was important, and the target market, for example, 3 months ago, they've forgotten about it already. So it's, constant over communicate. So now I sound like a broken record and I over communicate because I've been there, right?
Yeah.
All bruised and stuff. So that's one of the biggest things. And closing the loop on reporting earlier on.
Yeah.
And this is true not just when you're working with numbers, but when you really want to learn and iterate, set these smaller milestones for yourself. You don't need this epic story. So, do something differently today and look back, reflect, make sure you carve time to reflect on it. Otherwise, you won't have reaped the rewards of, what's the learning? How am I implementing it or trying to avoid it in the next project, for example. So those were big learnings that I carry with me through and through.
Very important because, especially in the restaurant industry, it's a business that moves so fast. A lot of people don't take time to reflect.
Yeah.
I'll give you a really dumb example, but I work with 125 restaurants as a consultant before I started Piecemeal. And one of the first things I would do is your menu, many times the menu is too big. And they would say, yeah, but the Mr. So-and-so comes in for that item. And it's like, let's pull what you've sold in the last 6 or 12 months and then show you precisely what you've sold, right? And for example, there's 8 appetizers. There's 6 that sell really well and 2 that we've sold an average of less than 1 a week. Yeah, but Mr. So-and-so likes it. I'm like, Mr. So-and-so likes you. And if he comes in, he's going to have that. And Mrs. So-and-so is going to have something else. And if they lose, you're probably losing more on that product than you're making in the end, right? So sometimes being able to take time to reflect, to look at what you're doing, look at your results. And it's something that many people don't do. And to go back to, we're talking about successful restaurant operators, the ones that have the ability to take a look and reassess and realign, really helps them, be successful as they move forward. So really good stuff. I'm curious to know, if you were sitting in my place, you did throw me a question before, but if you're sitting in my place, is there any questions you would have asked or you'd like to answer you would have asked yourself?
I don't know. It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
I would say, what's next? Because, we often think about, where we were, where we are now. And, I'm always curious to learn, when I'm interviewing, even I ask people, what's next for you? Even if it's not fully fleshed out, what do you think, the next 1 year can look like? And so that's a question I would like to ask you, and also would like you to ask me as well.
For sure. Well, I'll ask you first, but what's next for you? 1, 3, 5 years, what's happening with Parisa?
Glad you asked. So in terms of where I am today and how far I want to take it with ResQ, I do want to see this play out through and through. So I would say in the next 4 to 5 years, I want ResQ to have been this one of the most well-known companies in North America and hopefully in Europe as well, and be able to, then retire in 5 years for at least a year before I get the itch and do a startup. But, when you're, that growth story is also very important for me as well. And I've seen startups where they became scale-ups, and the people who were the founding team members, who were the sub-100 team members, they were there when things were not glamorous, but they figured things out. Yeah. And so they showed resilience. They're the people who know how to deal with anything that's thrown their way, and they'll find a way to get it done or get through it. And so I really wanted to be part of that and to make that my growth story.
Yeah.
So I think making ResQ a household name with restaurants, I think once that's done, the day I call up a restaurant, I'm like, hi, I'm calling from ResQ. They're like, oh yeah, we know ResQ.
Yeah.
I'd be like, my job is done. I'm good.
That's amazing. I'll tell you, similar path for me, right? I tell people I want, my goal is for us to help, 50 to 100,000 restaurants over the next 5 years. We're about to hit 1,000 now. And we haven't even, burnt $1 million budget so far. We haven't done any marketing so far. So, we're working with some of the largest brands in the country. So I'm excited to see where we're headed. The feedback we're getting is amazing. But when people ask me where I see Piecemeal in 5 years and over, I say I want it to be one of the 5 words that comes to mind when you're, when you talk about restaurants, what are you thinking about, right? I'm thinking McDonald's or Cisco or Piecemeal or like that. That's definitely my goal, is to go there. I think we have a unique proposition that allows that. I think you guys do the same. And when people start saying we've been rescued, and you go to some trade show somewhere, and that's how people refer to you, to your company, I think that's going to be amazing for people that are curious to know more about ResQ. Website is getrescued, right?
Yes,
.com.
Get Rescued.
What's the best way to get in touch with you guys? Through the website?
Through the website for sure, or info@getresq.com. I'm on that email, so I do see it.
You'll see that come in.
Exactly. So that's GETRESQ.
Beautiful. So if you guys want some help with doing the dirty work, like sharing the dirty work of repair and maintenance, get in touch with Get Rescue and Parisa and her team. Before I let you go, time flies. I think you and I could have done this all afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a rapid fire. It was fun to get to know more about you at the beginning. So I want to finish it off learning more about you. And if people haven't seen, by the way, before we do that, you have a ResQ shirt on that has a pretty cool line on the back, right? What does it say on the back?
Oh, that one. I love it when you talk repairs to me.
Yeah.
That's how crazy we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't talk repairs internally. Go talk to them about repairs. I love the shirt when I saw that. So rapid fire about you. Do you enjoy a beverage, wine, beer, or spirits once in a while?
More wine and craft beer.
Cool. Any specific region you enjoy on the wine side?
I get migraines, so over the years my choices have gotten very limited. So Three Thieves Capsule from California. Nice. I can bring bottles of that and not get a headache.
Bring it on. And any craft beer any microbrew you want to tell us about?
Yeah, so I used to live in East Coast Canada, in Nova Scotia, and Propeller Brewery. Their porter is to die for.
Nice. Propeller Brewery out east. The best trip you've ever taken?
Oh, many. God, okay. I've traveled quite a bit. I would say Istanbul. And because to me, the entire city was one big museum. And to walk in the streets where there's so much history in every corner you look at, and that was the bridge between Asia and Europe, and it was just a whole different experience. And the food, Chris, the food is unbelievable. Like, these guys know how to just have a good time at a table.
You make me want to travel so bad right now. Been a little bit of cabin fever in this house for a while. We usually travel 2-3 times a year, so now it's been a year and a half. So, 3 words that best describe you.
Oh, I would say. Okay, I have to think about this a little bit.
It's all good.
I would say calm, although I was never like that before, so it's something I intentionally worked on. Yeah. Calm and daughter and sister. Like, those are the things that really have defined me. Yeah. My roles,
Amazing. You get parachuted on a desert island. You can bring one album of music. What would it be?
One album? Yeah. Oh God, what? I would actually do, because I tend to get bored really easily. The one album I've been listening to through and through it's instrumental, and it's Alex French. It's all piano, and I could listen to that guy for hours.
Probably would help you get calm, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Instrumental piano.
That's a good point. That's why. Yeah.
In the next 3 years, considering everything we've been through in the last 2 years, but in the last year and a half, in the next 2 years, are we opening restaurants or not?
Me?
No, just in general. There's people who want to open businesses. Are we opening a restaurant, or is it a money pit and our industry is going to die?
Oh my God, 100%. Not one, open 10 restaurants.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go. Let's do this.
Exactly.
If you could have dinner with anyone, who would that be?
Oh, Malala Yousafzai. Like,
especially right now.
talk about courage and talk about making a difference at such a young age. To me, that being bold and just being unafraid despite all odds, like I'm constantly in awe. And every time I hold back something, I think of, look at how young she is,
Yeah,
you know,
and what she's doing.
and what she's doing. Yeah.
She must be pretty peed off right now, seeing what's happening over there, though. She must, yeah, considering what she went through and what's happening, she must not be happy. Anything you reading right now, you read recently that you want to share with us?
I reread Brené Brown's Dare to Lead. I'm obsessed with Brené Brown because I find she gives you the words that you're always thinking, but you never thought of like expressing it that way. And it just hits home. And it's something that everyone can relate to. And I love how she talks about things that no one wants to talk about, but she'll do it effectively. And we all relate and we'll all end up having a conversation about it without even realizing. So I'm rereading Dare to Lead because there's so many wonderful lessons that I took away the first time.
Amazing. Parisa Tootazehi, thank you so much for joining me on Table 21.
Thank you.
It was a real pleasure. Looking forward to a long collaboration between Piecemeal and ResQ as we keep doing this. But it was great to get you on and to learn about you and about what you guys are building there. Thanks for joining me today. Anything you want to add before we go?
No, this was really fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Time flies, right? Everybody thinks I'm crazy to do an hour, but an hour flies out when we have an interesting conversation. So thank you for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you soon on the next episode of Table 21.
Thanks.